So this movie wasn't exactly bad, but it wasn't exactly good. Um well, there were some confusing things that they didn't even try to explain and some dumb shit they didn't try to explain, and there's horror cliches cuz it's a horror comedy, but there's like way too many horror cliches and horror stereotypes. Horror movies wouldn't really be horror movies without the stereotypes or the cliches, even as much as a lot of people don't like them. But they have every single damn one that I couldn't even list them. Like, if you're watching a scene, there's a cliche. And then they make stuff obvious on what's about to happen. Like, there's a scene where they show that Willie's missing, and then the cop gets killed. That appears behind her and kills her. We could have just had it maybe be a surprise kill. She takes Nicolas Cage in the building with the shotgun, and then Willie kills her. And most of the actors weren't very interesting besides Nicolas Cage. The main and only girl that survives with Nicolas Cage wasn't very entertaining, and she's kind of cringy at times. She flicks off a building after walking out of it, and it just doesn't really fit there. And her acting was not the best. There were things that did not make sense, that they clearly didn't think too much about. So, obviously, before I confuse you guys anymore, the animatronics aren't really animatronics. From what we hear in an earlier scene where they describe why and what to Nicolas Cage, why these things exist, right? They say that, well, there used to be serial killers and they all worked together in a place called Willy's Wonderland, and then they would dress up as the animals and they would kill people. Eventually the cops realized what was happening because people were reporting a weird smell and there was too many missing people, so they ended up killing themselves in a satanic ritual and being transferred into the bodies of the animatronics, which doesn't make sense because they were costumes, not animatronics. They wore the outfits, so we watched them put on a fucking fur suit. They're costumes, but now they're animatronics. Because from my understanding, pretty sure you can't wear an animatronic. They get controlled. So they're costumes. How did they become animatronics? It doesn't really make much sense, and like, I guess they got human anatomy. Like, there's a scene that's more of like a jokey scene where the girl there's like a little quick scene where there's this little kid tries to touch the animatronic's boobs, and she says, "You want to fuck, fatty?" But I just figured that, it was just designed that way, right? Like, to look like it had boobs, like a toy or something. But I guess she has like real boobs under there, because in a later scene, one of the animatronics gets hit in the nuts and it talks about how his balls hurt. So he has balls. So all these animatronics have real functioning body parts, which I guess makes sense since they do have hunger and they have to eat people, which is another thing that I wanted to talk about. I get they're serial killers, right? That's what they were before they even became the animatronics. But from what they talked about, they didn't seem to be cannibals. So why, now that they're in these animatronic suits, do they want to eat people? You would think they would just still have a lust for blood. And maybe part of the deal would have the sheriffs like cook for them, because I guess, it would probably be hard for some of the animatronics to cook, or if not all of them, especially the ostrich animatronic. But yeah, I guess since they were fine with killing people, they're fine with becoming cannibals now. Like, I didn't really understand that. I also don't understand why the sheriff wanted to stop him from killing the animatronics. I guess I can kind of get it. Like, if he does end up failing, they're gonna be pissed at her and probably kill a bunch of people from the town again. But, same time doesn't make the most sense. Nicolas Cage also does not speak for the entire movie. I was expecting like some cliche, unfunny joke near the end of the movie, or maybe just one-liner, but no, doesn't talk at all. It was pretty cool. He still was entertaining. So, it worked. He was the only entertaining character in the movie. Every single character in the movie is a stereotype. There's this dude, Chris, that's gullible. He has a crush on a girl that doesn't like him back. There's a horny couple that gets made fun of. But, oh yeah, I need to mention that. It was so dumb. There's this another typical cliche scene where someone gets made fun of, and then they go like, speaking of whatever ends up the person said, where are they? Well, they have that scene, that dumb little cliche, but they don't do anything with it, which was probably the most bizarre thing ever. They just kind of continue telling story and then cut back and forth. They do a lot of cuts in this movie, where they cut to different characters, different scenes, and at times it just kind of ruins the flow of the movie, but it works most of the time. But they're like, hey, where the fuck are our friends? And then they don't look for them, they don't search for them, they just go back to talking. Did they just forget what they were filming? What? Like, just watch the movie just for that? I doubt most people would, but it's so stupid. They ask where their friends are, and then they just start telling a flashback story about what's happening, and then whatever. It's so dumb. Most of the characters get pretty lame deaths. Some of them have decently cool ones. One generic tough guy dude gets stabbed in the back by the Knight character, which was honestly my least favorite animatronic. It's not a bad one. It's just nowhere near as colorful and as cool looking as every other one in the movie. So he just doesn't really stick out, unfortunately. But he gets a pretty cool kill when he kills that dude. And the sheriff gets a cool kill when she gets sliced in half. Though it's not the best looking effect. Chris just gets his neck snapped, and one person gets like somewhat eaten, but they don't show what's happening, and it's like blood splashed on its face. It's, it was clearly a low budget movie, but they did pretty good with the animatronic kills for the most part. All of them were pretty enjoyable, if not repetitive, with the fact that he beats the shit out of them. Like, near the end, it's always just him beating the shit out of their head most of the time. Like, one, he kicks his head into a sink multiple times until, dead. Another one beats the shit out of it with a wooden thing, and another one slams his face in the wall a bunch of times. Always going for the head, which makes sense since they are possessed and human-like. And they're still the humans. But there is like a lame one here or there. There was one that didn't even really make sense logically, which was, I almost forgot about, the lizard girl. He starts fighting her, and then when he's done, he just starts dragging her by the tongue. And he starts taking her to the door that he knows is locked, which is only because of plot purposes. Because the cops got called by Chris earlier. So now they're here, and now they're going to threaten him with a gun or blah, 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 blah. But why didn't he finish the job, and why is he dragging it to the door that he knows is locked? With all the other ones, he put them in a trash bag and then put them by the door. But not only is she still alive, but he's dragging her to the door he knows is locked. It's so stupid. Why is he doing that? If you don't pay attention, you might miss it, but that was really dumb. And most of the fight scenes aren't the best, and they go by pretty quickly, but the actual kills are pretty decent. She's the only character that gets away throughout the movie, only because of how dumb it was. She also tries to pull the bullshit that a lot of horror movies do, where she tries to say she's good, she's not like the rest of them, which doesn't even make sense. And I really don't know why Chris falled for it. Maybe it would make sense in another horror movie, if not it being cliche and dumb. But he knows, because he lives in the town, and not only does he live in the town, he stands there during the dumb little flashback scene where they, throw the plot onto us, but it's only for Nicolas Cage's character, where they talk about how the fact that every single one of these animatronics are serial killers. They killed themselves in a suicide satanic ritual shit thing, and they keep killing people. They were all serial killers before they died. Why would he... It doesn't even make sense with that thing at all. Like, at all. Maybe in another movie, but not here. She's a serial killer. She is obviously like the rest. This isn't even, believable for half a second. Half a second. Not at all. Not believable. As soon as she pulled that bullshit out of her mouth, I was like, she's gonna kill him. It's so stupid. She was a serial killer. She's gonna kill him. It doesn't even work in this movie. But, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I totally believe that. That thing really made me mad for some reason. Was the fact that they tried to make you believe a serial killer isn't like the other serial killers. That's kind of the point of being a serial killer, is that they kill people, but whatever. Most animatronics, you do see them on stage, you see them a few times, but obviously they don't really do much until the scenes that they get killed in, unfortunately. But we do get a lot of scenes with Willy the Weasel, so I guess that was cool. And we do get 2 scenes with the alligator. So I like that. She goes into the vent to get into the building, and then it chases after her and she gets away. And then later we see it when it kills 2 people, and then it gets killed. Probably the funniest moment in the movie, when he stops when he's about to fight one of the animatronics, simply because his watch went off for his break. And he also chugs sodas throughout the movie, which I found kind of silly. That's not healthy. Which, I'm not the healthiest person, but every time he has a break, an entire soda during the break that he chucks in the trash can. There's probably at least 8 sodas drunk in a day. And this is at nighttime, so it's not throughout the entire day either. This is probably in a few hours. It's kind of silly. But, whatever. And he does the same thing every break, drinks a soda, plays the pinball machine, besides the first time. Because the first time he doesn't realize it's, there. He has to uncover it because there's a sheet over it or whatever. They also pay electricity, which also would have made more sense if they actually fed the animatronics real people. Like real food, not people. Which would have made that make more sense. They're paying electricity to keep the fridge running because he puts his sodas in there. So why couldn't they have, I don't know, cooked a bunch of food, put it in the fridge for the animatronics to eat or some shit. And there's also one thing that really didn't make sense, and that is one of the animatronics sneaks out to kill the other cop, which I got another criticism for that. A lot of criticisms for this movie. I did enjoy it. It wasn't terrible. I liked it, but there's just like so many things wrong with it that I can talk about. But one of the animatronics gets out of the building somehow when there's 3 people standing outside. One cop is arresting the girl or whatever, handcuffing her or something, and puts her in the cop car. Then he gets in the car, and then she stays there, and she just stands there to watch and wait for Nicolas Cage's character to get killed. So she's standing there waiting, watching the door. But you know what happens? One of the big-ass animatronics somehow not only gets past her, but gets on top of the police car. And then later it kills one of the other cop that was driving the police car. And then the other thing I didn't like about that is they tried to make him have like a change of heart or whatever. He's like, okay, I'll go back to the place. So, like, why? They could have just had him be stubborn and then get killed during talking or something. Because if he was going to go back to the place, it was kind of pointless to just immediately kill him. Have him have a change of heart to him, like, immediately die. And I really don't get how that animatronic got there unless it fucking teleported. Kind of silly that big-ass thing somehow got past the person that was staying there watching, waiting for Nicolas Cage to die. And he's only called the janitor in this movie, so he doesn't really have a name. Yeah, that's really about it for this movie. It wasn't the worst. It was entertaining. But is it something I would watch again? Probably not. Not a bad movie, just not something I would really watch again. Because it was entertaining for a first-time watch, a one-time watch. It's still not a bad movie. But honestly, just not worth a rewatch. As of right now, anyway. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future.